Welcome to You're Allowed to Hate Your Husband, a modern day love story. I am Remy Stern. I'm a relationship coach, and we are going to talk all things relationships, from being single to dating to being engaged, married. Who you marry is the most important decision you will ever make.
If you're looking for a wife, which is a beautiful thing to do, the best thing to do is to choose wisely.
If you're thinking, what am I doing wrong? Everybody else has it right. Then you are in the right place, because trust me, nobody knows what they're doing. I'm so excited. Please hop right in, listen to this episode, listen to this series, and we are so excited that you are joining us here. Welcome back to You're Allowed to Hate Your Husband. I am so excited for you to listen to this episode. I am joined by Devorah Wilhelm. She is a Rebbitzin who taught me before I got married, more or less, how to be married, because it is fully a learned skill that nobody is taught. So she gets on today and teaches you all things marriage, how to know what to look for. So if you're dating, and then how to stay in a long, loving relationship. We talk about finding your soul so that you can find your soulmate. We talk about laughter and joy and how that's so important in all aspects of life. So hop right in, listen to this, and I'm so excited for you to take all of these things and apply it to your life. Welcome to You're Allowed to Hate Your Husband. I'm so happy to be joined by Devorah. Devorah, can you just tell us quickly, who you are, what you do? I know it very well, but I want everyone else to know how special of a person you are and how many people you help. And yeah, just give us a little briefing on who you are.
Thank you for that compliment. Thank you for having me. This is such a treat.
It's so fun.
And every conversation we have is always so meaningful. So I'm excited for this. My name is Devorah Wilhelm. I grew up in a Chabad Hasidic family. My parents are emissaries of the Rebbe. So Chabad, I don't know how many people are familiar with Chabad, but in short, spreading positive, authentic Judaism everywhere in the world, every corner of the world. So my parents set up shop on the Upper East Side. We won the jackpot. And then when I got married to my husband, we're married over 15 years now. About a year later, we said we want to continue in that work. So we started a young professionals chapter on the Upper East Side, catering 20s and 30s age, which automatically means that our priority is helping people with dating and relationships and marriage, because that's the age and stage. So one of my greatest joys is learning with brides and informal coaching. I'm more of your friend in terms of dating and relationships, because it's such an important part of people's lives. And if I can help them in that, I do a lot of other things, but that's like the most the top priority for me and my husband, and what gives me the most joy as well. I also have 6 kids. My life is scheduled around them. They're my first priority. But we also try to just bring goodness to the community.
I love it. So you help women in the community date, get married, kind of you've helped me from the beginning to now. And again, since I am new to Judaism, I didn't grow up religious. Everything that I experience is new, which is very cool, because a lot of people, it's like, they've experienced this for so long that it doesn't feel new, but you get to give them new experiences. But so for me, what I found so cool was that you gave me classes when I was getting married. So going into marriage, I had classes on how to be married. It is mind blowing that people don't get that. It's crazy, because marriage is really tough. Right. It's amazing. It's fulfilling. It's fun. It's cool. It's great, but no one teaches you the skills to wake up with the same person every day, go to bed with them every night, share finances, share your living space, raise a family. No one teaches you this stuff, and you're able to give us that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We think that the most important part of maybe let's establish that having a wholesome marriage is the most important part of your life, and we all have so many things that we can accomplish and should accomplish to better ourselves and to better the world, but the anchor that marriage, and that's why it's such a gift when somebody finds their person. It's truly a miracle. That anchor that marriage gives to you, to your life, to your family is so tremendous. You have to, first of all, look at it that way. Once you look at it that way, then it makes no sense that, oh, I'm just going to fall in love and fall into marriage and everything's going to be hunky-dory. Like anything of value. I mean, we're in America. People obsess over education and internships and da-da-da-da-da and coaching. And yet they think like for the career path, right? Which, let's be honest, after 10 years, you're like, let me reassess. So, so for marriage, it's like, I'm just going to I'm going to bump into somebody and I'm going to love them. And like, this is all going to work out. So the first thing I tell people when they sit down and my husband learns with the men as well. And sometimes we do the couple together because that's always very effective. Mm-hmm. You're doing so much planning for this wedding, right? Just the wedding itself.
Yep.
The gown and the dates and the invitations, which God bless all of you. That's always the worst part. And the parents and let's really plan what's happening that day. And it's really just the grand send off for the rest of your life. So what are you doing here? Like pause. And my husband always starts each session with, well, why are you marrying each other?
Okay, so that's my question.
It's a great question.
No, it literally was my first question. Like, why do we even get married? Because obviously to have kids, okay, great. But like in this day and age, I think people are a little confused as to everything. And we don't have maybe the foundation, but like, why get married? You might as well just like have a partner. And if it's, my dad has told me that one of his friends has a setup that they're married, but only for 1 year at a time. Like I know. So it's a super wealthy man who I guess maybe was scared that like, probably was scared of someone taking his money. Okay, fine. Understandable. Prenups do exist, but they have a setup that for 1 year they're married. And at the end of the year, they go on a trip and they get to decide, do we still want to be married? Both of them.
This isn't a reality show?
No. My dad makes reality shows, so it sounds like it. LA is a reality show. LA is crazy. But they have this setup where they get to decide every year if they want to get married. I haven't decided if I think it's absolutely absurd or there's something smart to it, because I know it's crazy, but like that's their setup to be like every year we get to decide. And when you get that decision, you care a lot about it. You give a lot to yourself, but obviously that's not the way marriage should be. You choose this person for life and you find any way possible to make it work, even in the hardest of times. But like the question still lies, why get married?
And it's a fantastic question in this day and age, right? It used to be that it was the societal norm. So at the very least for that, and it was really messed up to have a kid outside of marriage. Now that's like, sure, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, exactly.
So the question is a very important one. But what you said before reminded me of a story. I don't remember the names of who it was with, but it's a real story where the two guys were just talking to each other, holy, wise people. And they were talking about this idea that marriage, you have to invest in your marriage every single moment. Meaning it's as if you're getting married every day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every year. You could be married for 20, 30 years. And, they were talking about this idea. So as they walk off, the guy says to the other guy, Mazel tov. It's like, what are you giving me Mazel tov for? He said, well, you just got married.
That's cute.
So there is something to that idea where you should always, it shouldn't be an if, but it should always be a yes. I'm always reinvesting in my marriage because you got to be on. So I think that's why a little part of you is tickled by it, because there's something to it, except
yes, because every year you're deciding, yes, I'm still married to you. Like that decision for them, it has been a yes, thank God. So every year you're deciding, yes, I'm still married to you, versus being like, oh, this person drives me crazy. What am I still doing with them? Like you're deciding, yes, I'm still in. And that's a really cool way to say it. It's like you are getting married like each second. And anytime Jonathan is driving me crazy, I go watch my wedding video and I'm like, oh, I really freaking loved him that day. Like we were so happy. It's the same guy. It's just real life kicks in. And so I want to go back. Like what would you say is the reason to get married?
First of all, what's interesting is for a lot of women, I find that it's instinctive. Because in general, we're more in tune with the truth. And I'm not into like, there's better genders. Like that's the most stupid thing in the world. We all need each other. But we each have our values. And one of them is that women are more usually inclined into understanding that relationships are so important. And therefore also just know that marriage is really important. Mm-hmm. Why? So it's very interesting. I always go back to the Torah. The Torah is the oldest book out there. It's God's wisdom in short. So it's real life. It's written not as a history book, but as a way to tell us how to live. So Torah says, why should this person get married? Because, verbatim, just in English, it is not good for man to be alone.
Oh, wow.
So that's a very simple concept, but it's also so deep. Simply, yeah, we know that anyone that's alone, you feel off. We're not created on islands. We're created in this world, and we have relationships with many people, but there's the one relationship that's all in. So I always ask everyone, what's the deepest love that a person experiences?
Probably with their kid.
Exactly. So you always say that it's your kid because before the kid is even born, you're in love. It makes no sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, you're not really in love with the kid. You're in love with yourself. And the reason why the love to your child is so strong, and by the way, it doesn't dissipate, right? You could have, God will, hopefully more and more and more. Each kid is the same love because it's the same principle that they're an extension of you. Of course you love them.
Mm-hmm.
So a parent that doesn't love their child, and by the way, a child that doesn't love their parent, even if they have a messed up relationship, something's really off, right? It's the most unnatural thing. And that is why you would literally jump in front of a car for your kid. It's such an enormous love.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the deepest love? When you choose a stranger, and you could get along, but they're a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And very often throughout your marriage, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be like, you're a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that I will be with the stranger. I'm going to be married to the stranger. We'll talk about what that means in a second more. And I am fully loving them, trying to mimic that natural love that you have for a child, and except you're creating it. There's nothing more powerful and more beautiful than that. And yeah,
that's what's like so trippy about marriage. And again, like this applies to whether you're dating and what you're looking for, if you're in marriage. Like if we don't know what we're looking for in marriage, we're not going to know how to be in it. But you go on a few dates with this person, you could date for many years, and like you get to know them as like a friend and a lover and a this and a that. And then you're expected to become family with them, but have a different relationship than anybody else in the world. And hopefully you don't get annoyed with them every second of the day, but maybe you will because you live next to them. Like the relationship of a marriage, the love of a marriage is so unique. It's like loving a stranger as family, but they're not a stranger because it's very interesting.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about how hard marriage is.
Okay.
I think that's where
we
want to go.
It's very confusing, but amazing, but confusing.
That's why it's so amazing, because it's so messed up. It's like you're taking something that should make no sense. How can you be married to a stranger for the rest of your life? Because that's the idea, and fully be committed to them and love them and express your love and be selfless. Is that even humanly possible?
Is it?
Is it? The $1 million question.
You've been married for 15 years.
Married for 15 years.
I've got 3.
It is.
Okay, tell us.
It is. And even, I do believe that every couple has their moments of doubt. And that's not, I think a lot of it is also normalizing a lot of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about how their first year was hell. That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
You just changed your entire life. You're freaking out. Even if, I think couples, they've lived together for 4 years, but then they get married and it's like a whole new thing, right? Because it is a whole new thing. You're married now. So having doubts, waking up and wanting to puke, so normal. So I think that also just calms everyone down. Like, okay, this happens to everyone. It's not fun, but like, we're not crazy. We're not the only ones that feel this way. The Jewish perspective on marriage gives so much context and focus. So the what's written in the holy books, in the Zohar specifically, which is the Kabbalistic part of the Torah, is that the way it works is, so we operate on a soul level. Like God put us in a physical world in our bodies, but the soul is our engine. So really that's the perspective on everything, is where's the soul taking us? It needs the body to execute whatever action it is, but it's the soul is the main thing. So up in heaven, before, I'm going to use myself and my husband as our example, before Devorah and Yeye were born, our soul was one. It was one entity. And then it got divided into 2. And my part was born into me. Well, his part was born into him. He's a little older, even though Age is really irrelevant. And my part was born into me. And we each went through our lives. You have to go through your childhood. You have to go through whatever experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And as you start to get a little older, you're more in tune, right? You're more aware. Children are innocent, but they're not aware, right? They're selfish. As you get older, you have the capacity to be selfless and you start feeling something is missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good for man to be alone because it's not good to be half.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally missing something. So we credit it to, boys and girls liking each other and hormones and chemistry or societal, expectations.
Wow.
But truly it's your soul longing for its other half.
Wow.
So that's the great miracle. It says God spends all of his time making matches because God knows we need his help,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that's dating and looking, it's a really frustrating process. So when you identify your other person, it's huge, but you're still two halves. Only under the chuppah, which is the Jewish wedding canopy, when you do all the things that are part of our, customs and traditions and Jewish law that makes a marriage real, what happens? The two half souls come back together.
Be whole.
It's a chemical reaction. Be whole. So therefore, you can know each other. You can, have so much, but now you're a new person, your new reality. One of the reasons we wear white is because it's our personal Yom Kippur, right? People are familiar with Yom Kippur. It's the holiest day on the Jewish calendar when all of your sins are forgiven. Your ultimate relationship with God is revealed and you become a new person. That's what happens for a couple on, and Yom Kippur, it's a tradition to wear white. That's what happens for a couple
on their
wedding day. They become a brand new spanking person.
So cool. I remember you taught me about your single years and they said in conventional wisdom 1 + 1 = 2, but today 1 + 1 = 1,
right?
Because Remy, under the chuppah, you are 100%. You are whole, full. Your single years were spent filling yourself up so that you could be whole and full. Jonathan, for 13 and a half, 14 years before Remy, you were filling yourself up to be whole and full. And the minute both of you kind of like ding, 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 became full, that's when God, the universe, Hashem, brought you together to make one bigger whole. So there's 50%, there's 50%, but you really are 100% of that. And then together you make a much bigger 100%. So no matter how annoying the day-to-day is in marriage, the spiritual zoom out, see big picture is so powerful. Like that's why you need to be married. That's literally the definition of it, is to be whole again, to be whole. So in finding, there's a two parts. I was talking to someone recently and we like kind of made a joke, the idea of like, we're all living in hell. We're just dealing with our own devil. Mm. It's like the most negative way to see life, but like, whatever, there's some truth to it. And we were talking about this person was single, I'm married, and we were like both complaining about it, to be honest. And I think I said, I was like, honestly, dating sucks. So does marriage. Marriage sucks too. Dating just might be a little more fun. Marriage just might be a little more fulfilling. And we were like laughing. We left the next day and I was thinking about it. And I was like, there is some truth to this. And so if you can, enjoy and expand the fun of dating while borrowing some of the fulfillment from being married. And then if you're married, like really enjoy the fulfillment side of it. Like don't try to wish you were like single anymore. Like enjoy the fulfillment side of marriage, because if you lean into that, you're always going to feel that sense of wholeness, fullness, but you could borrow some of the fun from the dating, that spark, that fun. I also have been told always date your husband, which is kind of that idea of saying yes every year.
Yeah.
It actually was always date your wife, but I'm going to always date your husband. But for the person who's dating and feels half, they feel that lack of wanting to meet someone, a huge thing I do is help people feel whole, get to the top of that 50% for themselves. How do you recommend that person like find somebody from a place of wholeness and fullness when there's very clearly, we're saying all of this, but regardless, when you're single, you feel that lack. So how do you like know what to look for, know how to find it, and enter that stage of your life from a really whole, happy place?
100%. And that's critical, right? If you go into marriage thinking that this other person's going to fix all my problems, boy, do you have something coming. That is the worst plan ever, because that's not the case ever. You are totally and 100% in charge of your happiness and your success and your achievement. And you hit the nail on the head. That is the best way to get married, to find your partner, is by cultivating yourself and being a whole person, not from a place of selfishness and self-absorbedness, but from a place of, I was given everything I was given so that I could be the best person to contribute to the world and, God willing, to my family one day. So cultivating your wholesomeness is key. And in terms of like a spiritual journey, so many people have told me this, so I'm not saying it for them, that they found that once they were connected more to their soul, in other words, like their true self, and stop, everyone's trying to find like who they really are, and they found their soul and everything that comes along with that. That's when they found their partner. Because if you're in tune with your soul, then you can find your soulmate. If you're not in tune with your soul, then you're going to be looking in all the wrong places.
So where else do you feel like you can become in tune with your soul? Like if someone just, day to day, whoever it is, how can someone get in tune with their soul? Is it's something I work with people a lot on, is I do think our body per se, or like our emotions, can notify us when we're doing something right for our soul versus wrong. Like you said, we've got the spiritual side, we've got the physical side, they go together. So if you're able to be in touch with the physical and bring the spiritual into it, amazing. So what I help people with, and we talked before that, like, I'm a dreamer. I dream big, and I genuinely believe that these desires, these dreams have been planted. The universe, Hashem, whoever it is, has planted the seed into me to go run with it, right? So I'm all in. I get a desire and I'm like, thank you for the message and notification. Bye-bye, let's go. Like, come with me, let's go. But I found that if I tell people what like genuinely makes you feel really good, connected, whole. So like in regards to, let's say, Judaism, like showing up to a Jewish class fills me up, right? My husband, a little less so. Him waking up and putting tefillin on, and it would be great if we could do it all, but I'm going to feel connected in this place. I'm going to go run with it. Also, I feel connected when I'm doing my Pilates class, or when I'm doing my meditations, or when I hang out with this specific friend, or I go into nature for the weekends. Like, these are times that I feel connected. Guess what? Thank you for the message. I'm going to do a whole lot more of those. And maybe that's like the process of filling my soul up. Like, do you see any other place where people can really connect to their soul in order to find their soulmate?
I agree that God uses our body and our physical self and our emotions and the thoughts that pop in as it's his way of talking to us. But we do have to make a distinction between real pleasure and fake, fleeting, gross pleasure. Because there's a lot of things that feel good that don't really feel good. And usually you could tell what are the after effects. It's a combination of, I don't like calling them rules, but there's guidelines. There's very clear guidelines. There's 613 mitzvot, commandments. A lot of them are interpersonal, the way people have to behave with other people. A lot of them are between man and God, like prayer, putting on tefillin. But these are all ways to live life. And they were, even though it seems generic, they're really customized to each Jew. And for the world at whole, there's something called the 7 Noahide laws. There's a program. God created a world and didn't just be like, figure it out, guys. Like, I made you, I made this world. This is how we can accomplish all the things we need to accomplish. Follow these guidelines. At the same time, it's very individual. So if somebody's really good at something or really connects to something, as long as it's wholesome and doesn't hurt other people, just to state the obvious, then that's your individual path in this overall path. Very interestingly, there's 248 positive commandments and 365 things that we can't do, and they correspond to the different parts of our body. Oh. So the 248 limbs and 365 sinews or veins.
Okay. And does that have to do with like the positive ones, or
it just shows that it's not like there's the spiritual part of my life and the physical part of my life.
They go together.
Really integrated.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All of this is like so mind blowing the more you dig and dig and dig. And just going back to the point of like, you are in charge of your own happiness. And I love this idea of, get close to your soul, like focus on your soul to find your soulmate, because, you know, that's like attracts like. And the more you work on your soul and like elevate it, you're going to find an elevated person or situation or whatever it's going to be. But, you know, really like tuning in with yourself. And something that I've found super interesting is that if you're looking for somebody to make you happy, right? It happened to me at one point in life where I was single. I was hoping a guy would like me because I didn't feel good about myself, and I wanted to feel good, and they wouldn't like me. So I felt worse. So like I wanted a guy to make me feel good about myself. And it was so backwards. I had to feel good about myself, and the guy would come in, right? And
thank God you realized that.
That is what happened. But sometimes it'll come up again in marriage where, you know, I'm sitting home alone. I've had a whole day with my daughter. I've been working hard, and finally my husband gets home from basketball and he sits on the couch and turns on the TV, puts his feet up, and I'm like, "Hi, my love. How are you?" And like, there's something lacking inside of me, you know, there's something that like I didn't fulfill for myself that day. And I'm like, "How was your day?" And he was like, "It was good, thanks." And I'm like, no, but hello, like pay attention to me, right? It's that same type of when I was single, like, hello, like me so that I can like myself. And it comes up in marriage sometimes. And my husband's taught me, Jonathan, more than anything, of like, go live your best life for me. Like, go hang out with friends, work out, do your work, obviously be an amazing mom, be an amazing sister, do things that make you really happy. And the minute I start focusing on that versus my husband making me happy, guys, he becomes obsessed with me. And I'm like, please get off of me. Like, please, enough. Like, but it comes up in marriage and in dating. And I'm going to push back. And then all of this, you know, people could find controversial, but whatever. I think, you know, women know the power of relationships. Sure. I absolutely agree. Typically. That being said, I think men sometimes are a little more clear and concise and like level-headed about it, of like, oh yeah, my wife's busy tonight. There was another one that someone said, like, you know, the husband goes out with his friends, he gets home late, and the wife's like, oh, what'd you guys do? What'd you talk about? Or like he's going out and she's like, well, what time are you going to be home? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? The wife's like, honey, I'm leaving. And the husband's like, okay, like, have fun. Or, you know, like there's something to, or at least my husband's taught me a lot about what it is to be in a committed, long-lasting marriage where like I make myself happy and I have a partner. Would you say that like women have that, like there's the dance, there's the men and the woman, and that's why we're meant to be together,
right? Well, the other side of being so in tune with relationships is we can come across as needy.
Yep.
So I'm going to tell you something fascinating. I don't know if this is going to go over a lot of people's heads, but it always comes back in terms of understanding men and women and relationships and just humans in general. You always have to look back at the first man and woman, right? We were told in the sixth day of creation, when God created the world out of nothing, he created a man and woman, and they were one entity, which is part of this whole idea. They were literally born as, like, created as one and then divided into two. But man first, woman attached. It's interesting stuff. But understanding where man comes from and where woman comes from, and therefore what they need to feel good about themselves, is, for me, this changed so much of my perspective. Man comes from dirt. God created man out of a clump of clay. Okay, and he breathed life into him, and he became a human. Woman was created from man. So man was created, then woman. One other opinion. Torah is full of opinions. It's just so much fun. She was created from his rib. So let's take one at a time. Man intrinsically feels like dirt. Doesn't feel good about himself because he comes from nothing. Comes from earth.
Interesting.
And that's why men, they come across as, they have very fragile egos, right? Anyone that has a man in their life knows that. Very fragile egos. So that's why, by the way, his wife has so much power in making him feel like $1 million, or making him feel like a piece of dirt.
Oh my God.
So because they intrinsically feel like nothing, they, in order to feel good about themselves, they need to feel like they produce, they're accomplishing something, they're making things happen, they're changing the world. They did an awesome deal today at work. And that's why a man is very connected to his work, not because they're workaholics and don't care about the family, because it's a human way of feeling like I produced, I did, I accomplished. And if a man comes home and had a bad day at work, he's in a terrible mood because he must feel like I'm worth nothing. Okay. And that's why it's so important for the other for the spouse to know what your spouse needs to build them up. Like what you were saying before is making me think. You think in terms of your job as a spouse, it's to be your other person's cheerleader. No, they shouldn't feel like they're getting that from somebody else. This is hard for a lot of people to do, but ideally, I like to talk in ideals because then we can strive for something. Ideally, you should be your person's cheerleader. So if you know that your guy needs to feel really good, and even if, they're both breadwinners or the woman's making more money, he needs to feel like he's the provider and we believe in you. And because of everything you do for our family, thank you so much. Like you're a provider,
Beautiful.
protector. A woman comes from man, which by the way, is one of the reasons she's held on a higher pedestal. It's because she doesn't come from earth. She comes from another human. So that's interesting. But that's why a woman feels good about herself when she is connected to her spouse.
It's really
Isn't it like,
cool.
Whoa, everything?
It's really brilliant. I think this is where people get marriage very wrong. People often think, I'm not happy anymore. He's busy and not paying attention to me. And I'm sitting on the couch waiting for him to get home. We don't even connect anymore. We don't even like this. We used to both like going to concerts. Now we have no time for that. And, we maybe can't afford the trip that we used to be able to go on because we had no expenses when we had no kids. And like, you get to a point in marriage where you forget what is really important and maybe like what love is. Like I don't think we know what love is. You said, what's the most important love? Like, what is love?
Love.
And this,
the best word and the most dangerous word.
Ooh.
If you're getting married to live a life of love, quit while you're ahead. Love is beautiful. It's powerful. A lot of there's blessings under the wedding canopy. It's part of the ceremony are about love. But love is very futile. It's very shaky. It's very, think about a heartbeat, right? If the heartbeat is flat, unfortunately, we know what that means. A healthy heartbeat goes like this. So love by nature is supposed to be up and down. If you're going into marriage with the objective and the goal of always feeling in love, or always receiving love, or always being able to give love, it's not going to work. The only way to go into marriage is that it's not about me. It's about you. God created billions of people in the world. And we are obligated to be respectful and kind and thoughtful and the way humans are supposed to treat other humans. But he said, Remy, there's one person, there's one soul, and God treasures each of his humans as if they're his only child. I'm entrusting this person to you. Imagine if every spouse looked at their spouse that way. So when you think about what is in it for me, how do I feel today? Oh, you're not paying attention to me? Yeah, you're going to be miserable, obviously. No one could ever be fully satisfied by somebody giving them something all the time. It's not humanly possible. But if you approach your marriage of, wow, I'm so lucky to be married to you, even if I don't like you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to build you up, to cheer you on, to give you what you need. That is what marriage is all about. It's supposed to be bigger than you. So 1 + 1 = 1 is I'm a whole, you're a whole, and now let's create something even bigger than us. So that's that. So what's the foundation of marriage? That's the only way that it can survive or thrive is respect. Because respect is not about yourself, it's about the other person. And that's how you're building something truly magical. If you're only going to do things to serve yourself, you're going to fail. You're not going to be happy. When you live a life of other, that's when you can truly be happy. Ironically, is when you give, is when you get ahava. So we always look at the original Hebrew word, ahava, which is the word for love. What's the root of it?
I don't know, but I know that give, isn't it?
Exactly. The root of it is hav, which means to give. We think of in love as those magical moments, the white horse, and the way you felt when he proposed, and the way you felt your first dance at the wedding, and the way you felt on your honeymoon. Those are all wonderful, nice things. That's not love. What's love? And this is why the definition I'm about to give is going to tell you why love grows, true love grows, as opposed to diminishes, which is how I think the world looks at marriage, is true love is the daily give and take. Living life together. And when you do that, it's just this small weaving. You're going to arrive at a place where you cannot imagine your life without the other person. That's
So
real
cool.
love. Other stuff is exciting and passionate and fun. And I hope everyone has a lot of it because it gives us a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, when you try to like light a fire and you put the paper just to get it going, but the fire goes out really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm a city girl, so I think I know what I'm talking about. But then it's the embers and the wood that really sits.
Mm-hmm.
So those exciting things are great. And you should have, like, I'm a big believer, especially once you have kids, make sure to travel together alone. You got to keep on feeding the fire. But the real fire, the real foundation, and giving I remember before I got married, I was like, Mom, this is petrifying because nothing that I've ever done was for forever. Like, you can invest in a job or in a friendship. If it doesn't work out, it's not really the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But here, like she said, just the opposite. It should be so invigorating because it means everything that you put in is for something. Every investment is for forever. So it's all about approach and perspective. If it's about the other person and if it's about building a life together, which I think you want to talk about values, then it's going to be a winning situation. If it's just about the love and the good feelings, I mean, that's not even humanly possible. I don't know where that idea came up from.
Guess what?
Movies, you ruined our lives.
Exactly. 50% of the country is divorced because, at 20 years in, 30 years in, you're thinking, well, this isn't fun anymore. Like, how many times can I kiss the same lips and see the same face? Like, okay, this isn't exciting. We don't love each other anymore because he's not paying attention to me. So might as well call it quits. Like you said, like if you're going to ride it on love, you might or might not call it quits. I remember you told me a story once about the perfect couple, and it really sat with me. You're going to say it better than I would.
My favorite story. It's a cute anecdote, which really just, I think, drives the point home. So there was this couple back in the shtetl that was like the village, the olden day Jewish village where everything was just small and, cute, Fiddler on the Roof, think. And there was this couple that was the talk of town because they made no sense. There was like nothing about them. Like, whoever thought of that idea was crazy. And yet they were loving and doting and just this dream couple. Everybody envied their relationship. And it was just like mind-blowing to everybody. And one time this young kid kind of had the chutzpah to approach this guy and be like, you got to tell us how on earth do you have such an amazing relationship with your wife? You're so different. So he said that they were set up, so they didn't really know each other before. And when they got married, they realized right away, how on earth is this going to work? Like, we can't even have a normal conversation for more than a minute. So they were both like, let's just call it quits while we can before things get more complicating. But thank God, that's not, that's a big deal. It's not like, okay, I'll just marry you this week and get divorced next week. Like, that's not the proper approach. So he went to consult with his mentor, his Rebbe, and he told him what's going on. So the Rebbe said, do you want to know what your mission is? Because just to give context, every person comes into this world to accomplish one thing. And that's why every single human is needed. There's no such thing as extra. So you are asked to accomplish something that nobody else can accomplish, no one that ever lived and nobody that ever will live. So you are literally needed as soon as you're born. That's God saying, I need you to accomplish something in my beautiful world. Now, none of us know what it is. So we try to take every opportunity. And again, we're given guidelines on how to treat other people and how to be a wholesome, good human. So this guy, the Rebbe, his mentor, says to him, what if I could tell you what your mission is? Like, wouldn't you like to know? Yes, we would all love to know. That would make our life so much easier. So he says, the reason why your soul was put into this world is so that you could cherish your wife's soul and treat her with every possible goodness you can. So he took that home. He did not tell his wife about this conversation, and he started treating her like that. Like, the only reason I am here is to cherish this woman, is to listen out and what anticipate what she needs, what she wants, what are things that bring her joy, give her the ultimate respect and kindness and cherishment and everything. And when somebody treats you like that, you return in kind.
Mm-hmm.
How can you not?
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up having this beautiful marriage. And clearly because he knew with such gravity that this was the entire reason why he was in this world, he must have never forgotten that message. But that's truly the way all of us have to treat our spouses.
It's beautiful.
So,
I love it. It's
great perspective.
It's more important to give to the other person. And in the end of the day, if they're both giving, then you're both receiving. I think I heard that the word forgave in Hebrew is natan. Is that correct? And it's the same way spelled forward as it is backwards.
Yeah,
So when
give.
you give,
It's the word forgive.
Give.
Yeah.
I thought it was in past
Yeah.
tense, but give, when you give, you receive. It's a natan,
Exactly.
Natan. It's the same way spelled forward as it is backwards. And I think that this is something super important, not just for people married, but people dating too, because I think we have the idea of soulmate wrong. We think your soulmate is somebody, like we've been, we're drilling this point in, but like this person who you have fun with and you laugh with and you cry with and you watch Netflix with and you go on a trip with and, all well and good. When in reality, your soulmate is somebody who helps you fulfill your mission here on earth. And typically I've found from people I've worked with that person is sometimes the harder option to be with, because they're going to help you learn, they're going to help you grow, they're going to help you get better. And what happens when you go to the gym to grow and get better? It's a little bit tough. It's not an easy journey to become better. You get some growing pains. But the idea of a soulmate as being somebody who's going to help you fulfill your mission, who you are going to give to, and in giving, receive and build one of the most important things, or probably the most important thing, which is building a home. Because we said this in a recent episode, that one home creates an entire world. Because by the time that those kids have kids, it's thousands, if not million. I don't know how you do the math. How like you in a home, you build an entire new world. So if you know how to choose a partner, what partner to choose, how to be with them, you are changing the world. As big as that sounds.
Beautifully said.
But to know what a soulmate is, know what love is, why are we even doing this thing called marriage? It changes everything to actually know. I think we have such the wrong idea. Would you agree?
Totally. Just to drive that point home, sometimes you'll know before you get married that this person's going to really push you, but more often than not, you only find out after marriage. It's beautiful. We learned so much about it from our tradition. So the Jewish tradition is to veil the woman's face prior to the ceremony, and then afterwards she gets uncovered. And it's there's like historical context to why we do this based on what our mothers way back when did. But the messaging is, the symbolism is so huge, because before you veil them, you have to first identify, this is my girl. Okay. You're saying two things. You're saying, I'm committing to 100% be married to this person that I recognize, that I know, that I fell in love with, that I had a blast with the past however long it was. And I'm also committing to marrying the person that's veiled, the person that I'm going to discover, the person that will probably push a lot of my buttons, but no doubt will also push me to bring out parts of me I didn't even know existed, and to make me a better person. And you have to be all in. And when you are, the results are tremendous. So you have to know what the reason why you're here, right? If you think that your life's supposed to be hunky-dory and just fun, then of course you're not going to be thrilled to be married to someone that's pushing you. But if you know that I'm supposed to be living a bigger life, that long-term I'm going to real accomplishment, it comes from real work. Everybody knows this. Mm-hmm. We just don't want to necessarily face it. Mm-hmm. So every part of your spouse, the parts you recognize, the parts you're going to discover a lot, because we all develop. You're going to discover a lot about yourself too. Is there to complete you, but not in a feel-good way, but in a real way.
So cool. Because that's it. Marriage is real. Like, the wedding is the fake thing. The marriage is what's real. So how are we going to feel in the real day-to-day? And I remember you once told me that you date Leah and you marry Rachel.
That's just the opposite. You date Rachel, who Jacob fell in love with as soon as he saw her. They were so easily matched. And then the father-in-law tricked him and put Leah under them. And Leah ended up being the main mother of the Jewish people. Most of us are descendants from her.
So they're both great and they're both important. And Jonathan says, so you date Rachel, you marry Leah. So but when we were dating, I used to let Jonathan watch TV in bed all night. And I was like, yeah, watch, I'll just fall asleep and curl over. Literally last night, he comes in and he starts fidgeting with his like rings and necklaces because he loves jewelry. And I was like, I think it was 9:00 at night. I was like, not now. I said, do it in the morning. How dare you fidget at 9 p.m. in the bedroom? So he dated Rachel and he married Leah. You end up marrying someone different, but you're supposed to, as if I remember correctly, remember Rachel, like always return to her, but love and marry Leah. So
that's where the dating comes in while you're married, because remember the Rachel. It's going to really help you, be married to the Leah.
100%.
Cultivate both of it. Like, we're not looking to make your life miserable. We're looking to make your life whole, real. So the hard work pays off. We all know that. Like, things that feel good, that are just about feeling good, are very fleeting. Right? At the end of one's life, it helps give perspective when you think about it. To be a long, long, beautiful, productive life. What are you going to feel good about? You're going to feel good about the things that you invested in.
Mm-hmm.
And building a home. I love what you said before. Building a home that's based on respect and wholesomeness and peace and laughter and friendship is the greatest gift that you can give the world. Imagine if every single child in the world was born into a home that was wholesome and respectful.
The dream. That's
the world
literally my dream.
Would be a perfect place.
Mm-hmm. I always say,
you can give.
Divorce is more or less the ground beneath your feet as a child being ripped out from under you, because that's what brought you into the world as your parents. And all of a sudden, there's literally like an earthquake explosion and that no longer exists. And you're like, well, I better figure this thing out on my own. And it's very painful. So if people could know how to get married, how to be married, you literally will change the world. And that's why I care so much about this. So if you were to give people kind of that last piece of advice, and that's kind of it, we just summed it up in a great way, but of how to be married and how to stay married and what to look for, just like that, is there one last piece of advice that you tell your brides, because you teach brides, like, this is what I'm leaving you with?
I'm stumped. Ironically.
It's a hard question. It really is. I mean, there's so much, there's so many things that I want to keep talking about because you've helped me so much and continue to and will for a long time because I need all the help I can get.
By the way, always, if anyone stops seeking to learn about marriage and to cultivate and fire their marriage, it has to be active. It has to be active. I'm going to say something that sounds really simple. Laugh together.
That's so funny. I was going to say that too.
And here's what's so interesting. The Torah, which we didn't talk about sex at all, but values very much, because it's really the ultimate expression when you have the right type of sex of showing your spouse that you selflessly care about them. When a couple has intercourse and it's not about pleasure per se, it comes with the package but it's all about, I want to show you how much I love you and how committed I am to you. That is wholesome and godly, and that's why God chose it to be the vehicle that brings a child into this world.
Wow.
Yes. So
you're right.
So yeah, but not that it's not. A lot of people think they only have sex if you could possibly conceive. No, do it in the context of mikvah, which is a beautiful, beautiful foundational Jewish tradition. But it's such a holy, wholesome place where the couple is expressing selflessness to the extreme. And when a couple is really connected, they're not just connecting their bodies, they're also connecting their souls and their minds and their thoughts and their hearts. And it's the ultimate expression of selflessness and connection and commitment. And that's why it's like, okay, this is the prime time to bring a child into this picture. And it says beautifully that every time a couple is together in this wholesome way, so obviously you could do sex right, you could do sex wrong, you're always creating something. So either an actual child, mazel tov, everything should go well, or it depends how whatever lingo you like to use, angels or just good energy. You're putting out good energy in the world.
Cute.
And it just goes to show that even if you're even if you're doing something which should be completely private, but if it's good and it's wholesome, you'll always impact the world for the best.
Cute.
So I went on a little ramble there, but Torah uses different words for sex and intercourse in the Torah. There's many different, because each one kind of shows a different level. The baseline, like where Torah says, don't do this because it's just selfish, incest and stuff like that, Torah uses the word shachav, which means to lay. Like it's just the act, nothing else. But the deepest word that Torah uses for intercourse is tzchok, to laugh. Because what's the idea of laughter? When something takes you by surprise. You're like, I thought I knew what was going on. I thought I knew where the story was going, and then you said something, and you're like,
Cute.
because when you make somebody else laugh, it's I don't know, it brings out a part of you, and it's a great gift, and make a point of it. This is advice I give myself all the time.
Really cute.
It bonds you on like a whole other level. Physical laughter and also the
I'm obsessed with that.
To.
It's brilliant. First of all, I'm the least funny person ever. Jonathan is hysterical.
Yes.
And I wake up the minute he gets up, he does the craziest stuff. Like you think he's just crazy here. Like he's hysterical. So thank God a million times I laugh from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed, unless he's fidgeting in the room. And then I'm like, please shut up immediately. And so laughter is huge. I think singing too. I heard it once, like if you have song in your house and like music and laughter.
Same idea. It brings out a whole other level of you.
Yeah. And then we all want that like spontaneous sex of like, whoa, hello, like that just happened. So it's cute. It's this idea of just like life and living, and I don't know, it's like that feeling of like, ooh, this is funny. This is fun. I think
it's that idea of also like injecting that newness that we all want to feel, but you don't have to do it by doing something new. It's just that perspective of every single moment I'm choosing to marry you again.
Cute. And then I also think for single, laughter is the most important thing. When you're single and looking for someone, would that person want to walk into a room and see somebody like,
exactly,
I'm not finding my person? Or would they rather see someone laughing and loving life with their friends? And guess what? The worst thing that happens is you just had a night that you laughed and like had fun with your friends.
So we have a lot of single events, even though we don't like to call it that because it just psychologically creates negative energy. But we have Friday night dinners or events for 400 or 500 people. And I walk in, you see everyone's like on edge. Why? Because their mother said, you better go, and he might be there. So my message to everyone is, I tell them each individually, do not come here with the objective that you're going to find your person. You are just going to set yourself up for failure. That's way too much pressure. Come here because you want to spend Shabbat together. It's a Jewish way of connecting. There's great people. You might make new friends. You might catch up with old friends. There's good food, good wine. Ultimately, that will be the most attractive version of yourself, and you'll have a much higher chance of meeting somebody.
100%. Last thing I'll say about that is that I've said to people in the past, like, if there's one person you're trying to marry, one person out of all these billions of people, the likelihood of him being there is actually low, because you're literally looking for one person. The likelihood of the date you go on is low. But I'm saying that in the kind of like, when you think of something negative, it actually is a positive. Like, so why not be pleasantly surprised when you meet him versus hoping and praying that he's there at that party, and hoping and praying that that date you go on texts you in the morning and he's the one, and hoping and being disappointed. Not saying be pessimistic and be like, you're not even the one, but like, go enjoy. And when you meet the person, be super happily, pleasantly surprised.
I just had a thought that's totally tying everything together. So often, almost every time, you're going to marry someone that you didn't expect, because that person that you created is fake. They don't exist. You just created a fake human being, and you think you're going to find them. Like, so you're going to end up marrying somebody. My best friend just got engaged, and just got married. And during her engagement, she's like, Devorah, what just happened? And he's so cute. Like, they're perfect. Laughter. When you find your person, it's going to take you by surprise. Cute. And let yourself be open to being taken by surprise.
I love that. Okay, so that's what we're going to leave on. Let yourself be taken by surprise. Thank you so much, Devorah. We're going to have you back maybe for a little deeper dive onto the joy of intimacy, a book I'm reading right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you liked it as much as we did. Now go send it to someone who needs to hear it, because we know that dating, relationships, marriage can be tough, but we want to make it less tough. And remember, you're allowed to hate your husband. Whatever you're feeling is allowed. So go send it to a friend, to your sister, your brother, maybe your boyfriend, a husband, whoever needs to hear this, send it to them. And while you're at it, click the follow button, click the review button. Always feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And we're so excited to see you in our next episode.